Hello there. Recently I finished some pages of my comic that I'd been really struggling with, and as I made them I thought a lot about self-doubt and worries that my comic so far has a lot of mistakes and room for improvement. But I hope this video reminds you, and me, that mistakes and imperfectness are all part of being an artist.
Hello, it's been a while since I've made a video just because I was working on my comic and I just kind of had to focus in, really get that done. And I have completed the pages that I was doing. I just need to colour the last page, which was more of a full drawing of my main character Joni. Well, there's two main characters, Joni and a robot called Tin, and they run a food truck in a futuristic little world. Well, the world that we're living in, just in the future. I've got loads of ideas for videos, but I've just it's just having the being in the mood to make them and deciding which one I want to make at one time. But I've been thinking about quite a few things while I've been making this comic, and I thought it might be helpful to people going through artistic projects or who want to be an artist, or it doesn't even have to necessarily relate to art. It could be any kind of thing in life where maybe you're worried about making mistakes, looking a certain way, being seen, trying, as people say. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing psychologically to get past in order to put yourself out there as an artist or even as a person. Yeah, I did some writing again, dare I say, which I thought, might be interesting. But yeah, I was working on this comic and it was a really tough few pages, and I have to admit I was really, there were lots of ups and downs, and I was doubting myself a lot when I was making it, and I was worrying a lot about the overall comic and how it will look when it's completed, the first issue, and I have to keep reminding myself of various things, and I guess that's why I'm making this, to remind you if you're having these self-doubts or worries or things like that, because I'm making this comic with not a lot of experience in comics. I've been making art now for about 5 years, but I literally started from scratch. I could hardly draw anything. That's something that I thought, I could talk about my journey through art at some point if people are interested. But yeah, I don't know a lot about comics. I haven't made a lot of comics before. I've kind of gone from making a few zines and short comics and one-page comics to making this first issue of a serial comic idea, which is considerably longer. When I first started making it, I didn't necessarily know it was going to be this long. It's just kind of sometimes when I'm making something that's more narrative, I often find that the story kind of ends up being a bit longer than maybe I planned, which is often the way, isn't it? But yeah, I kind of started it quite spontaneously and started sharing it. When I first made the first few pages, I didn't even know what the story was going to be overall. I literally just put it out there. Partly because I think I wanted it to motivate me. If I started sharing it, then I couldn't decide halfway through. Well, I could, but it helped me to not give up, because I thought while I'm sharing it, I'm getting people interested in it, hopefully, and so they will want to see how it ends, so I have to complete it. And to be honest, even though sometimes I feel oh no, I should have waited, I should be better before I make something like this, I'm actually really glad I did that, because I think it's helping me to push through these self-doubts and stay motivated. And publishing it on Webtoon as well definitely helped me to have a bit of a time constraint. Recently I was aware that I hadn't updated it in 2 months, and even though that did put a bit of stress on it, in a way that was helpful, because it made me keep making it rather than maybe give up and say, oh well, actually I just will never release this comic, and I think that would be a shame. But a lot of those doubts do come up where you're thinking I look back at some of the pages I've made and I think gosh, that page is really bad, or the faces of the characters are really inconsistent, that doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense. I read other comics all the time, other people's comics and manga and stuff like that, and I think, oh, this is so good and I should have done that, I should have done this, that's a way better way to lay this out or do this or whatever. I look at the lettering and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all over the place, the text is too narrow here, too big here, it's not fitting the bubble nicely there, all these kind of things. But I know that despite all these doubts, I will learn so much from doing this. And I think it's that decision to make something even when you know that, you know, it is going to have a lot of mistakes. It's going to have a lot of errors. It's going to look a bit amateurish. It's going to look, you know, rough around the edges. It's going to look like you're a beginner and you're new to things and you don't fully know what you're doing. Actually, someone emailed me about comic making, and one of the things they said, which I really liked, was that they were going to muddle along making their own comics. And I think that's a really good phrase, muddling along. I even looked up the official definition, and it essentially is doing something even when you don't really know what you're doing and giving it a go and carrying on and being, you know, at times confused and, you know, making mistakes, stumbling along, but doing it anyway. And I think that is the spirit of things that I personally try to embrace. I've made the decision, I guess, to be seen rough around the edges, to be seen with all my gaps of knowledge on show, because the way I see it, I don't think there's so much wrong with that, and at the end of the day I will have made something and it will be real, and I think the world needs art, and I want to go further than that and say it needs imperfect art. In fact, I would argue that perfect art doesn't exist, but maybe art that's trying to be does. Art, you know, the world, I think the world wants like honest art, unpolished art, rough art, bad art, you know. People, I think, are searching more for meaning and connection than skill. And I think that's important. And I'm not saying skill doesn't matter. Skill is also incredibly admirable, and I really love seeing how my work has progressed. I feel like my skill has improved a lot and I can make things now that I never could have made before. I never even thought I could be an artist, to be honest, so like even just making art and anybody buying my work and liking my work, I forget how much of a like bizarre thing that actually is to me, really. But yeah, skill is important to a degree, but I think it should not hold you back from putting yourself out there as an artist, or, you know, always comparing yourself to other people. I'm not as good as them, I'm not as capable as them, or whatever. I don't know, I think the world wants honesty and real stuff. Yeah, I think that art is powerful in the way it can connect with people in a very, very unique way. And I think the world really needs that now, as it always has. But I think, yeah, art can comfort people, connect with them, reflect on things, educate on things in a way that is very, very unique to art. It's almost like a different voice we can tap into that we can't say with words, even if there are words involved, if that makes any sense. It's just something about art and storytelling that is so incredibly unique in the way it communicates with people. And I think that communication can and almost should be imperfect. It should be honest and it should be real, and it shouldn't be sugar-coated pristineness. It should be, you know, rough around the edges if it needs to be. Who knows what I'm talking about? This is why we write in the book. So let's read the bit in the book. This is actually a bit more of a tangent, but it's still to do with what I've just said. Hope you'll see how this relates. I'll probably show some of my comic while I'm saying this, kind of like I did last time. I'm not trying to just remake that video. The videos aren't going to be the same thing over and over again. In fact, I'm going away this weekend, hopefully, to do some outdoorsy experience. And so I'm hoping to draw there and film, and I think that'll be quite a peaceful drawing, outdoorsy video, hopefully. Story time again. Perhaps we need to go further than saying that mistakes, struggle, and failures are the stumbling blocks of beginners on their way to being better artists, and say that they are simply part of the uneven ground that you will travel along your entire life. When we are still willing to make mistakes, be amateurs, be beginners, be bad at things, be the least skilled person in the room, then we can rest assured our artwork will never be stagnant for long. We will always be able to take our art on new journeys, find new directions, and explore different places. One of the most incredible things about art is its limitless nature.
that has no set rules or strict levels of achievement, and is not a task that can ever be completed. Even the most beloved, skilled and knowledgeable artists will often set off on new approaches, gladly sending themselves back to the classroom as humble beginners. If I could give artists any advice, I would say that they should abandon any part of themselves that is too worried about other people's perceptions of them, in the sense of being afraid to be criticised, disregarded, disliked or ridiculed as an amateur. What should also be thrown out immediately are any notions of superiority and the closing off to learning or open-mindedness. These are the dangerous signs of arrogance, and there is nothing that drags creative minds to still and shallow waters like arrogance can. One of the worst things you may do as an artist is to close yourself off to its infinite possibilities and become stuck in a trap of your own making. I found myself thinking of an astronomer, staring out into the vastness of space, knowing that they will never understand or see, or even scratch the surface of all that is possibly out there, but much like an artist, they enjoy exploring it anyway, and accept the knowledge is bigger than themselves. Even more than accepting it, they may be glad of it, because when something comes to an end, when there is no more to learn, mistakes to be made, or questions to be asked, you are left with the most unfortunate scenario, where all the unknowns are now known, and there are no mysteries left.
There you go. So yeah, that kind of touched on a thing as well that I always think about, which is how vast I think art is, and how wonderful that is in a way. How it's like you can never ever reach the ends of it. There's always so much more to learn, or different ways you could look at things, and I just think that's really cool, and it really drives me forward, I guess, because I think curiosity is like definitely something that has driven me forward in times where I couldn't find anything else to drive me forward, to be honest. But yeah, it's interesting making this comic as well, because another thing that I thought I would talk about at some point is how, like, Joni is quite different to me, but similar to me as well. Like, in this section of the comic, you know, she's negotiating with, well, I say negotiating, she's sort of arguing with these two mushroom sellers, who were also quite eccentric musicians. Yeah, this bit kind of made me think about how Joni as a character, she cares deeply about people, and she gets these things in her head that she wants to do to help people, and kind of can't be stopped, and that's kind of what this storyline is about. In her mind, like, she wants to make this food to, like, help people, give them that, like, one meal that might just comfort them in that moment of whatever they're dealing with, and that's quite a theme of the whole concept of Toasting the Machine that you will see in various issues. Like, she will try and make food that is appropriate to the people she's meeting and what they're dealing with. I'm giving you quite an insight into the comic there, actually, secret information. But in this section, she's so determined to get these mushrooms, but because, like, the business is really struggling, it's another thing we connect on, she can't afford the mushrooms. She still owes them a lot of money for previous mushrooms. And the only thing they will let her take the mushrooms for is if she agrees to help them get Tin to sing on one of their songs, but Tin is really against this for reasons which will come up in the next bit. And in the end, she's so determined to get these mushrooms because she's got in her head that, you know, she must make this meal for this person, she decides to actually betray her friend and say that she will help them, even though she promised Tin that she would not do that. And yeah, I guess I'm mentioning this to say that, I don't know why I'm mentioning it. Mentioning it partly to say that I think one of the ways that I connect with Joni is her determination and how much she wants to do these things ultimately to help people. And it may not be in this direct way, but she still sees value in it. And I think that's what I see my art as, something that I do to hopefully help people. I think there are many ways that art can help people. Like, I'm making this comic, and I think to myself, like, I do get doubts sometimes, and I'm like, well, it's not about anything important enough, it's not meaningful enough. But then I'm like, actually, maybe, for one, it's just an introduction, and for two, it's only the first issue, and for two, I'm like, maybe it will be a comfort to someone. Maybe it will be something they go to just escape and be comforted and feel cozy and remind themselves to eat good food and to rest. And I don't know, you know, I guess like Joni, I am trying to help people in that less obvious way. Yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, I hope that what you'll take from this is that, especially if you're a beginner, don't be afraid to be seen as that and to be seen at your beginnings, if that makes sense. To be seen on the rocky start. When you stop caring about like how you'll look and how people might judge that, you will be free to make art for the rest of your life and no one will stop you. And it's very freeing, I think. Yeah. Once again, did I make a point? Who knows? Yeah, a bit rambly today. I've just got a lot of thoughts jumbling around up here at the moment. And yeah, had a lot on and busy times. I just wanted to make another video because I feel like I'm going to be busy for a bit now again. And yeah, I don't want to lose the consistency with this because it's been really positive so far. So thank you so much. I'm really, really glad people are finding something comforting in these videos. It's really brilliant, and thank you so much for watching and for all the people who've subscribed. Yeah, I'm really, really grateful. It's genuinely really helping me as an artist, so thank you. And I hope I'll see you here again. So, till next time, thanks for visiting. Bye.